Rain lashed the taxi, blurring the neon signs of the city into streaks of color.
I gripped the steering wheel, weary after a long night.
A call came through. A woman, voice like static, requesting a pickup from a downtown alleyway.
Strange, but fares were scarce at this hour.
Turning into the narrow alley, the streetlight seemed to dim. A chill ran down my spine.
There she stood, shrouded in shadow, a lone figure with a suitcase that looked older than time itself.
She got in, the scent of damp earth filling the cab.
37th and Oak.
She rasped, her voice barely a whisper.
I drove, the silence broken only by the rhythmic thud of the windshield wipers. Her perfume, if you could call it that, was cloying like lilies in decay.
Glancing at her in the rearview mirror, I noticed her gloved hands clutching the worn leather of the suitcase. The city lights reflected in the woman's eyes, or at least where her eyes should have been. There was something hollow, vacant about them.
My grip tightened on the steering wheel. Who was this woman? Quiet night.
I offered, trying to break the unnerving silence. No response. She just stared ahead, her gaze fixed on something beyond the windshield. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end.
I turned, heart pounding, but she was still, her gaze unwavering. Did you say something, ma'am?
I asked, my voice betraying my growing unease. Silence. Just the relentless drumming of the rain. The street lights flickered as we drove, casting long, dancing shadows across the woman's face. Her eyes, those vacant orbs, seemed to follow my every move in the rearview mirror. A wave of dizziness washed over me.
I adjusted the mirror, but I could still feel her eyes on me, cold and penetrating.
The car filled with a low hum, a sound like whispering voices, barely audible, but there nonetheless. My foot hovered over the brake pedal, fear urging me to stop, but something kept me driving. The giggling again, this time closer, sending a shiver down my spine. I risked another glance. The woman was still, her gaze fixed, yet the laughter seemed to reverberate around her.
My throat constricted, each breath a struggle.
The taxi lurched to a stop outside a dilapidated Victorian house, its paint peeling like scabs. The street was deserted, shrouded in an unnatural stillness.
We're here.
My voice was raspy with fear. She nodded slowly, a faint smile playing on her lips. It was the most unsettling thing I'd ever seen. Fumbling for the handle, she stepped out into the rain, her silhouette swallowed by the shadows of the house. I waited, watching as she climbed the steps. She didn't knock, just stood there for a moment, then vanished through the front door as if she were a phantom. The door remained closed. A wave of nausea washed over me. What had just happened? I stumbled out of the cab, my heart pounding against my ribs. The rain had stopped, and a deathly silence hung in the air. Approaching the house, I noticed the taxi meter. It was still running. I reached out a trembling hand and knocked. The sound echoed through the empty street. No answer. Trying the handle, I found it unlocked. The air inside was thick with dust and the scent of decay. Cobwebs draped the hallway like macabre decorations.
Something crunched under my foot. It was a photograph, faded and yellowed with age. I picked it up, my blood turning to ice. It was her, the woman from the cab, standing with a group of people I could only describe as ghostly.
The giggling started again, swirling around me, seeming to emanate from the very walls. More photographs lay scattered on the floor, each one more disturbing than the last. They depicted the woman in various settings, always surrounded by the same spectral figures. The laughter grew louder, laced with a chilling undercurrent of menace.
I backed away, my eyes darting from one horrifying image to the next. Then I saw it. A mirror, its surface reflecting not my terrified face, but the woman's. She was closer now, her eyes burning with a cold, malevolent light.
The lights flickered violently, plunging the house into darkness. A scream escaped my lips as the giggling reached a deafening crescendo. And then, silence. I was alone. The woman was gone. But as I stumbled back into the night, the taxi meter still running, I could have sworn I saw a figure silhouetted in the upstairs window, her eyes fixed on me, a triumphant smile playing on her lips.